Greetings! Once again, this is Dr. Jimmy, and this is now, I believe, the fourth video in my series on the history of Halloween Horror Nights 23, What Evil Has Taken Root, from the year 2013. Now, again, this is July 1st, again, this is same t-shirt, and for once I'm not singing a silly song, or even a serious one. No songs at all. I'm going right in to Halloween Horror Nights 23, of course, continuing my discussion of what happened in the summer leading up to the event, how it was teased by the Evil Takes Root blog and the lovely person known as PS. I say lovely, but we never actually saw her. Yes, I mentioned in the previous video we did discover through electronic means that PS was indeed female. Female college student who had been in Salzburg, had come back to the United States, discovered some of her friends had disappeared in a mysterious way a few years before in the forest, and started investigating, only to be plagued by strange phone calls and mysterious happenings, making her get all paranoid and freaky-weaky. What's going on? Will PS herself vanish into the woods? We were a bit worried about her, although we weren't quite sure exactly who PS was and if we're being led on a bit. And it seemed like there was something odd here going on, because PS was behaving a bit erratically and only revealing one thing out to the bag. Why not just dump the bag and just show us everything? Eventually PS revealed that indeed someone was giving her instructions. It wasn't just empty static on the telephone when she got these calls. Someone was giving her specific instructions not to reveal the information in a certain way, that once a week an artifact would be taken out of the bag, and which one to take out and how to do it. Or someone was giving her these instructions, and of course following these rules. One of the rules was don't mention the rules. PS broke the rules by mentioning the rules. Oh dear. Whoever's watching PS might be sinister. We're not certain what's going to happen to poor PS when she broke the rules, but PS did indeed continue. I was worried about having to go back out in the woods because the screensaver of the Hohenzollern Castle, whatever it was, disappeared and was replaced by the creepy path going out in the woods, which you have to go back out there again after that strange encounter. But she continued to pull things out of the bag, all sorts of weird stuff. There was like a sword one time. There was like a magazine with an article about somebody who had been killed, who had been electrocuted for murder, a serial killer. There was a chip, an S card for a video, one of those video things that the hunters put up in the woods that they only record when there's motion. And so PS put the chip in and showed the video, and the video, of course, had hours and hours, as PS put it, of fucking squells. I don't know if PS meant an expletive or literally. I mean, weren't hours and hours of actual squirrel porn? You know, the squirrels copulating, you know, on camera in front of you, because they're randy little rodents, aren't they? It's naughty little, always getting it on. The little squirrel, fluffy tails, you know, turns on the squirrel, the girl squirrel and the boy squirrel, and they go quack, you know, hornet of squirrels, yeah. That's disturbing, Jimmy. Bad, Jimmy. Anyway, so, however, there was a payoff, you know, the money shot, not the squirrels, no, never mind the squirrels. At the end, in the middle of the night, in the dark woods, an apparition of a ghostly girl appears. Oh, ooh, creepy, scary. And so each one of these You know, there was a dog collar at another point, all sorts of things out of the bag. And when each thing comes out of the bag, shortly afterwards, there's an actual reveal on the website for one of the haunted houses. And it's not just the IPs, mind you, it's not just Cabin in the Woods, Evil Dead, but also the originals that are being revealed this way, even though sometimes we weren't told what it was. We had to wait a bit, but mostly, you know, because if you think about it, Havoc wasn't Havoc that year, was it? Was it Havoc? Hang on. Yeah, it was. Havoc Derailed was that year, as was La Llorona. The Little Girl in the Woods was La Llorona, yes. American Werewolf had a creepy one. It was like, there was a cassette tape, and when you played it, you had like church bells and howling and snarling and growling and biting and eating, you know. Somebody didn't stick to the road and went into the moors, obviously. There was a disc for Resident Evil with dogs and things, kind of scary. You know, video disc, all of this sort of stuff. And Resident Evil was dead last. I mean, after all the, pretty much they revealed most of the houses, and we're expecting Resident Evil Shoe Drop because, you know, it had been kind of leaked, and so we're kind of expecting the shoe drop, and it didn't happen, and it didn't happen, and it didn't happen. It was longer than the other ones, a big gap. And we're thinking, well, maybe something happened and the house got scrapped, you know. But then, all of a sudden, it turned out they got the reveal, and they did reveal Resident Evil just at the very end, before the big site update. At the very end, and I think part of it is because they had so many different, you know, rights holders to deal with. You have the game right holder, you know, Capcom or somebody, Konami, I think it's Capcom. Plus, you have the motion picture rights holders, and the people who released the game in the United States. I think it's Sony is involved, and there's other companies in Japan. There's all kinds of hoops to jump through. I think they thought they had the rights automatically because they've been doing Biohazard events in Japan for a couple of years by this point, so they thought they already had it. But then in America, there were other people to pay off. That's just my guess. So it took a bit longer than anticipated before the Resident Evil came out. But then it came out, and they did the reveal, and so, okay, all the major IPs revealed, and some of the originals. That was quite fun. And by this point, it was the 25th of August, I think, and PS made another blog post about planning to go back in the woods and wasn't sure what's going to happen. And then silence. When the website is updated and we get the full reveal for the event, revealing all the houses and scare zones completely, Evil Takes Root blog stops. It just seemed to disappear entirely. It's like, what was the point? We thought this is going to be part of something, maybe Legendary Truth, maybe something else. Now it's just stopped. No more blog posts. Well, that's kind of anticlimactic. This is just a bad marketing tool. It wasn't really from creative or art and design. It didn't really mean anything exciting to the mythology of the event. That's what we were thinking, cynically enough. We were wrong. Oh my God. There was some real relevance to what we'd gone through. There was something big to be revealed about PS and the whole Evil Takes Root blog. If we'd been patient, if we'd been optimistic, if we'd believed, we would have known. But no, we just thought, pah, and we let it drop, thinking that was strange. It just ended. We had no idea, but it wasn't at all over. Furthermore, when the event was revealed, we had the television commercial. And it seems now, in retrospect, how silly of us not to have caught the clear parallel. But the television commercial, it fooled us because they reused a commercial that had been seen before. Not in Orlando, mind you, in Hollywood. Therefore, I suppose that, we have the, okay, they're just cheap. They're going to use a commercial from a previous event. But they'll take one from Hollywood back in 2010 and use it in Orlando in 2013. And that way, the people who don't know that's a Hollywood commercial think, oh, this is new. When it isn't new at all. It's the commercial used back in 2010 for, Halloween Horror Nights 2010, what fear fears the most, I think is what the tagline was for that event in Hollywood back then. Well, here in Orlando, in 2013, the commercial was shown, and it shows you're out in the woods, and there's like 5 kids in the woods, 3 boys and 2 girls, and they're out in the woods, and suddenly this horrific fiend, this ghost demon, whatever, comes lurching through the trees, and they're like, and it comes running at them, and then it runs past them, not even paying them no never mind, and they're like, what the fuck was that? And then a whole horde of horrific creatures, zombies, mutants, freaks, monsters, werewolves, beasties, ghastly, ghouly gickies come, and all of them go running right past the kids, deeper into the woods. And they're like, the fuck? Huh? What's that? And then they suddenly it clicks. All these horrible beasts, these monsters, these evil fuckers are running away from something a hell of a lot worse. Oh shit. What the hell could be so fucking awful that it would scare the hordes of hell, these demonic fiends and monsters and creepies, and chase them out in the woods, that they wouldn't even stop and eat a bunch of little delicious yummy kids? No, they just run right past you. That means what's coming is Satan itself. I don't know, something really, really fucking scary, something worse than anything you can even imagine. If even the scary nightmares are scared by it, what the hell could it be? And so they turn, and then you get a POV of whatever the fuck it is. You don't see it itself, and then you see the kids, and they are in abject terror. They now see the worst thing. And then that's the end. So whatever it is that's so fucking scary, it's got them. Whatever that awful, awful thing was. And then, of course, the commercial, what evil's taking root, and it brings up the various IPs for the event that we'll have in Orlando, like, Walking Dead, Evil Dead, Resident Evil, Cabin in the Woods, all that. That was the commercial rerun of the one from 2010. You think we might have noticed 5 kids, 3 boys, 2 girls out in the woods. And it might have clicked, something we'd just been reading about on a blog maybe, but no, somehow it didn't click. We didn't catch the obvious parallel and realize that what the commercial was driving at. No, we just thought they were using an old commercial. We didn't give it another thought. Again, that's what you get when you're a cynical bastard and expect all the negative Nazis out there. You miss something important if you're so busy being self-important and attacking the event before it's even started. Anyway, so the event started, and the second year in a row, of course, an IP-driven event, no icon, although there turned out to be some iconic presents, nevertheless. And presents, as in you get a gift, well, no, you had to buy it, but you could give it away as a present. That's later. We'll get to that later. And of course, all of the promotional artwork and everything was, of course, the IPs of the event. That's how they promoted the event with Cabin in the Woods, American Werewolf, Resident Evil, Walking Dead, Evil Dead. In fact, they put up big posters of the IPs out in the front of the park, and that's that was kind of pretty blatant. And the event guides, of course, were all based on the IPs like they had the year before. So we have then our Close at Midnight, Walking Dead. And of course, Walking Dead was promoted more than any of the other IPs and used to sell the event in billboards and placards and everything else, since The Walking Dead was not just in a haunted house, but all through the streets that year. So here is the Walking Dead brochure for Halloween Horror Nights 23 for those nights when it closed at midnight. The brochure for nights that closed at 1 a.m. features Resident Evil. And we see a great big licker. Getting your tongue there. Licker, licker, licker. Yes. Get all liquored up. That's at Finnegan's. And then we have Evil Dead. Evil Dead was the on the brochure for those nights when it closed at 2 a.m. So we have 3 different brochures. And in the brochures, of course, we have a lovely map. And of course, we still have the forest theme of Evil Takes Root. What Evil's taken root, which what should have been something else, I think, originally, but again, got changed out, but that was still there. We have all the haunted houses, 8 of them. We've got a lovely map showing where everything is. A description of the scare... Oh, wait. No description of scares house because there weren't any. It was one big street experience, the Undead Streets. This little tiny blurb about the Undead Streets, not even going into detail at all. And of course the shows, there's more about the shows than the streets, which is awful, but that's the way it was. So the event began, which means that now we can talk about the thing you want to hear about most. And it took me all the way to the 4th video to get to the haunted houses, of course. And again, the haunted houses, we had a lot of intellectual property, IP houses. The first one, which was located in Soundstage 21. This was the first time Soundstage 21 had ever been used for Halloween Horror Nights. They divided it to 21A and 21B. They put 2 houses in Soundstage 21. Yes. And the house was the Cabin in the Woods. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, I might have to talk a little bit about it and spoil it for you. Yes, The Cabin in the Woods is kind of a self-referential horror film, bit of a parody in a way, although it's damn scary in a lot of scenes. It's not a balls-out comedy, a bit like American Werewolf. There's some horror comedy elements in a horror film, and yet it's funny. But it's also self-parodic, playing with the very tropes of horror movies themselves, especially, you know, the ones where you have a bunch of kids being slaughtered one by one. And the idea in the movie is essentially that there's this organization. They use a kraken as a symbol. I forget the name of the organization off the top of my head. But basically they're worldwide, and they have different installations in Europe, and I think in Spain or in Sweden or something. I forget where it was. But in Japan as well as in the United States. And every, I don't know if it's every year or every couple of years, whatever it is, at a certain cycle of time, at least every 4 or 5 years, I have to look it up to find out for sure. I don't feel like looking it up right now. It might be annually, I don't know. But when they do it, as often as you do it, and yes. So is this as often as they do it. And what they have to do is to offer up human sacrifices, essentially, to these dark gods, these ancient malevolent entities like Cthulhu or something. I don't know who they are. They live deep in the bowels of the earth, apparently, ancient demonic Lovecraftian horrors, demonic entities, who like nothing more than sit back and watch these scenarios played out in their honor, with sacrifices following certain rules, as if they were the audience of an actual horror movie, eating their popcorn or watching these kids getting killed. It might be a point being made about those of us who enjoy that sort of thing. And if we don't like it, we destroy the world by typing about it on the internet. Worst movie ever! Is that what the ending actually meant? You know, the big hand at the end was like some geek type. Yeah. Oh well, never mind. So we have these rituals have to follow certain patterns, which are the tropes of horror movies. You know, the first victim must be the slutty girl. You must have a jock. You must have a bit of a nerd who's like the jock's friend, even though he's a bit of a nerd, a bit of a, you know, more scholarly. You have the dude who's like, you know, stoner, kind of, you know, kind of, whoa, kind of crazy, kind of, you know, the fool, basically. And then, of course, you have the last girl, of course, who's a virgin, the one who doesn't smoke or drink or do drugs or have sex before marriage, the pure one. Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, for example, or any of those last girls in any of those other movies. And, you know, all of these types, you can see them in the movies. Oh, yeah, the jock, that's like, you know, that's like Ryan Phillippe, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah, and the stoner kid, that's like what was that whole dead fuck thing in one of those Friday the 13th? Oh, what's the guy's name? He's crazy. Crispin Glover in that one of those Friday the 13th movies was a classic example of that sort of character. Oh, all of that fun stuff. We see these characters over and over again, and you have to get just those set. And then, of course, they're killed in the proper order. The virgin at the end may be allowed to survive and escape if she's able to, but doesn't. You know, that's the only one who might be allowed to survive. And so these rules have to be followed. The one in Japan, though, follows rules of Japanese horror movies. You know, with floating girls and long hair and cursed videotapes, whatever you might have. So you have to follow these rules, and you have to do them just so. They have to be warned before they go out in the woods to whatever cabin they're going to, you know. Like Crazy Ralph. It's a death curse. You're all going to die. Remember? From Friday the 13th. The same tropes. All the rules are set up. And then when they get to the cabin, they've got all sorts of things set up for them to trigger whatever's going to happen to them. They have to make the mistake. They have to willingly select the thing that's going to make it bad things happen, whether it's the incantation in Latin in a creepy old book, or the puzzle box that summons demons, or blowing a conch shell to summon a merman. Never saw a movie like that, but you know, there could be. All the sorts of stuff are in the bowels of that cabin, in the cellar, and if they play with those toys, if they mess with that shit, then something will come for them. And they'll have to continue in part 5.